Hi everyone, it's hectoring here. Um, so I guess you all know that the meta has changed a bit in the last few weeks. Especially with the patches for the recent Road to Paris competition, which was won by my teammate Eminem versus Smarties. Um, over the next few videos, I'm hoping to go through some of the decks which have sort of evolved due to this meta. I haven't had much time recently, so it'll be a learning experience for me as well. So one deck which was played in the World Championship was this Mother Namtaru deck. Not the old one, which has been nerfed slightly, but is still pretty good as a rush deck. But the new one with the benefit of 3 powerful spell schools. So it plays out basically as a kind of traditional Necropolis control deck. You've got Banshees, Boneyards for your late game card advantage, as well as a bunch of really powerful spells like Time Jump, Ice Meteor. You don't have Soul Reaver because you don't have access to Dark Magic, but in its place you get Disintegrate, which is almost the same. Um, I'm, al I'm also trying out Nature's Wrath. That's pretty interesting. In case let's say you need to pull the trigger early on a insect swarm, and then you want to play some beefy guys after that, you can go to 4 magic rather than sometimes you're stuck on like low might because you've had to up your magic in the early game. Right, so what's happening in this game? My opponent's playing a sort of Inferno Rush deck. I would expect something like a 5-4 Garant, lots of mid-range creatures coupled with value from Hellfire Maniacs and so on, but what I'm seeing is really rushy with Thrall of Hatred, Caller of the Void, and even a Sacrificial Pit to get more direct damage out of his creatures. So I'm having to defend quite a lot here. My Hangman tree earlier, and now Eternal Apprentice is doing a really good job at crippling his creatures. Eternal Apprentice is definitely a 4-off in a Necropolis deck like this, especially because it only requires 3 might, which means that you can start upping your magic quite early. It's got a lot of 2-drops in hand. One thing I would do is I would often use Dragon Crystal a bit earlier in the game because as the game goes on, the impact of having that 1 extra resource from it gets lower and lower, right? Because if you're playing a 2-drop on an empty field, that's 100% of the resources which have been spent on the battlefield, whereas if you're playing a 2-drop and a 3-drop with your Dragon Crystal and then it gets answered by a board wipe, well then your Dragon Crystal hasn't given you that much value after all. So another Eternal Apprentice comes down to cripple more of his creatures. He's still getting some damage through via the Thrall. And you can see how the Eternal Apprentices here are really painful because they can't be killed very easily with 5 health, and if you leave, and then eventually once they finish defending they can start attacking as well. And they can cripple both creatures in a lane at a time, which is amazing. He's got plenty of options here though. He's going to use his Dragon Crystal to kill my Moon Silk Skeleton. That's fine, I'll Boneyard it back later. I also haven't played my Boneyard early in the game, because the first time you play a Boneyard is only getting you 2 resources worth of creature back. It's sort of better later on in the game, once it comes down to war of attrition. So now he plays a Caller of the Void and a Sacrificial Pit, and I'm facing an absolute ton of direct damage because even if his Thrall and Caller are crippled, they're still going to deal me damage, and the Sacrificial Pit as well is going to be annoying. So here, you see, because this deck has very high requirements, I'm left on 6 resources, but I can't really play a Banshee. I could play a Tropos, but there's no good targets for it. You really want to get back high impact creatures with it, like Banshees or Eternal Apprentices aren't too bad. As far as possible, I try to maximize the resources spent every turn. So here I'm going to put down a Boneyard and a Moon Silk Spider, occupying the board. I would have preferred it to be a Neophyte Lich, and the fact that there's 4 melee creatures in the front row means that I can't move my Eternal Apprentices around to cripple stuff. It also means I might not be able to play Banshees. As you can see here, he was able to deal me 2 damage by killing the already crippled Hatching Breeder, and he's now going to deal me another damage by using Day of Fortune to get rid of his useless 1-drop, and he's reset his Thrall now. So you can see the danger with this kind of Inferno decks is that even when their initial rush doesn't overwhelm you, they can still slowly poke you to death with so many direct damage sources. So the turn before, I decided to kill the Lurker and cripple that rather than kill the Caller of the Void and get in for 2 damage. I just thought that was a bit more defensive, even though it does mean that he'll get to deal me 1 direct damage with the Caller this turn. So he replays his Thrall, and now he's going to put a Hatching Breeder on the Sacrificial Altar, which is a Sacrificial Pit, which is a lot of damage. I mean, he's going to get 2 damage from the first time the Hatching Breeder dies, and then another 1 damage from the Little Breeder itself. So here again, I'm in kind of an awkward situation. I've got all these expensive spells in hand. I can't play my Banshee, but at least I can disintegrate that Thrall. You know, might as well try and see Mercenaries, even though didn't hit it. The Stone Shield is pretty good there. So this deck isn't totally adapted for the new meta yet. I haven't had much time. This is one I tested quite a long time ago, and developed it together with M&M versus Smarties. He had an updated one for the World Championship with which was slightly different, a bit more tuned to the sort of decks he was expecting to see. I'm going to try and get a deck list and link that hopefully in the comments underneath this video. So we can see here that he's gone up to 5 Might and 4 Destiny, so I'm assuming that he does have Hellfire Maniacs and Altar of Asha somewhere in his deck, but you really don't need it when you've got such powerful finishers as Bound Succubus and Thrall of Hatred. Now I'm kind of in a really tough spot here. I've got these time jumps, but because I can't play my Banshee due to the front row problem, I'm going to have to use a time jump early just in a controlling way. And the problem now is that with all his huge amount of direct damage available to him, I'm in the uncomfortable position of sort of having to try to race him. So I was thinking, if I play the Stone Shield this turn, then next turn when I kill the Lurker with my Banshee, I'm going to take a damage. So I'm just going to time jump past the turn, kill the Lurker and take that 1 damage, and then play my Stone Shield on his turn. Of course, the fact that I've got a Stone Shield means that as long as he deals me at 1 or more damage, he breaks his shield, so he's free to use his Bound Succubus to attack. In this case, he's going to break the Stone Shield by discarding with Day of Fortune, which is pretty good. And now, if it was up to me, I would probably try to spam the board with a Lurker and a Juggernaut. Not sure where I placed the Juggernaut. Of course, it does get him into trouble with the Ice Meteor that I just drew. what he does instead is to bridge the bound succubus, I guess here, because he's sort of aggressively attacking. He wants to conserve as much direct damage as he can. But luckily I've got just enough damage to finish him this turn, and I guess this is one of the reasons why this deck is able to survive in an aggressive meta, because with things like time jump you can really turn the table on aggressive decks just at the critical moment. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll be back soon with more new decks for you. Also, if you've got any suggestions or decks you'd like me to cover, send them in.